7 levels of heaven and 7 levels of hell. So I'm steadily ascending to 7 levels of self. Unlocking my inner wealth as a spiral uncurls. Full of mirrors inspiring myself. Check reflections, introspection, independent. I reject elections, wrestling with the lessons. Plant medicine left me blessed with some next shit. Voodoo and the hex shit, fuck a Brexit. I'm planning my planetary exit. You can't test this in this physical plane. I'm a shapeshifter embracing physical change. Never stay in my lane. Never a slave to the physical pain. I lost my physical body and I'll lose it again. I'm learning to dance in the rain and maintain. Riding on my pushback, working on my cardio. Sacrifice my body to the light, Illuminati bro. 5 life cipher, count my golden ratio. A man in different places with different faces can't face me, no. As for the emotions, I'm drinking the elixir and the potions of the motions. I roll with them like RZA, put my feelings in the ground, I build it up and get to smoking. I'm breathing in deep, hold it down, I'm never choking. Seeking meanings in my feelings, so revealing. Whoa, I'm always reading lines between them, steady streaming. Flow, see me dreaming, still believing as the feelings grow. And I be swimming in the women, leave them creaming. Oh, energetically, I'm a dynamo, setting positive energy. Essentially, I'm electricity from Tessa's dreams. Sending power through the melody, leaving more footprints on the earth than a gang of tap dancing centipedes. Energy God, maintain higher energy levels than coffee addicts sniffing cocaine. Fire like propane, Muhammad Ali on that rope with okay. See me at a show, blood I flow, even without oxygen, I'm so vain. Mentally, I'm poet laureate, genius. Graduated with honors at a level that's post-doctorate. Smarter than Dr. Octopus, with the confidence to know I'm far from modest kids. Intelligence in my bloodstream, where my hemoglobin is. Peter Parker spidey sense, telling me they're highly dense. Smarter than your Chinese friends, inside my mind I'm highly blessed. My mind's a work of genius, like spiders making spider webs. But when I construct my nest, I build it up with diamond threads. I ain't even gotta tell you what it is spiritually. New age without the gimmicky hippie sensibilities. Every breath I take is a moment of pure divinity, appealing to the Godhead when I'm lying underneath the guillotine. Ancestors, elementals, angels and spirits come to life in my rhythms and lyrics. Met my creator many times, now every day we kick it. Elevation, meditation, celebration, manifesting dreams whenever I pray to spirit. My whole life is just a moment, and I'm training in the art of dying. This moment is so potent, I'm learning to feel the high, and many people are just coping. I'm cloud-bound flying, building a ladder on the razor like my creator supplying. See, this is bigger than me. I'm glad to give my life so you can live your dreams. Matter of fact, I'd rather die than keep watching the same scene. On my Bill Murray, Groundhog Day is now over. I'm on to better pastures and the grass is so green. So join me as I fly away. Come make we burn down Babylon today. Everybody's asking for a change. Just look inside and you will find the cheat code to end the game. Join me as I fly away. Come make we burn down Babylon today. Everybody's asking for a change. Just look inside and you will find the cheat code to end the game. Join me as I fly away. Come make we burn down Babylon today. Everybody's asking for a change. Just look inside and you will find the cheat code to end the game. Join me as I fly away. Come make me burn down Babylon today. Everybody's asking for a change.
And we're on and we're live, and big warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for tuning in to NiaTV. I'm Charmain Berry, and this is Charmain Berry on the Telly. The date today is Saturday, August the 29th, still in the year 2020. It's been another really, really interesting week as we sort of seem to be coming out of lockdown more and more, hopefully. So we've got a very interesting lineup on the show today. I have 2 special guests. I have with me Bart de Greeve, who is the founder of Brightsky Community, and I'm also being joined by Sutton, who is a trauma relief and biodynamic breathwork practitioner. We've also got our regular feature from Kristina Batty with the Mayan Calendar Report, and we've also got, I think it's Cacao Shop today, with Nicola Charnock that we're going to be playing in a little while. And I just want to say a big thank you to Mars Radio for playing us in with these track battles. Thank you so much. So it's time now to join our first guest. We've got with us Bart from Brightsky. Hello, Bart. Welcome.
Hi.
So good to have you here. Hello.
Thank you.
Hi, Bart.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
It's a pleasure to
nice
be
and
here.
sunny where you are. Yeah, it looks lovely where you are. Nice and sunny.
It is now, yeah. It's been raining a lot, but it's a beautiful morning.
Gorgeous. Well, thank you so much for being here. We met a while ago, maybe a year or so ago, and met through your organisation that you've been developing for a while now, which is Brightsky Community, and you hold the sort of the vision for that and have been developing that over a little bit of time. But before we talk about that part, I'm just interested in finding out a little bit more about you.
Sure,
And
sure.
kind of what kind of things led you to this place of sort of birthing this idea around Brightsky. But I know you were in business before this, and you've had like a really interesting time with it.
Yeah, I've had a in my late teens and early 20s, I had a history of addiction. And when I came out of that, I started a publishing company, and it just grew very fast. I think within 4 or 5 years, we were working with 70 people. But in that time, I would say that I was kind of hiding the underlying issues of my addiction behind the success of my business. So the people in the world looked at me like a successful businessman, and I used the reflections of that, you know, that view of me to hide how I actually felt. And my business was booming. People thought I was an example of success, and inside myself, I didn't feel successful at all. So I was kind of living, the way I look back at it, I was kind of living a double life. I was taking the reflections from people to hide how I really felt behind. And then as soon as I went in my own space, I was, if I look at it, it was just depression. I had no idea what to do with my life. I was following a model which the world showed me of what success was supposed to look like, and it wasn't working for me at all. And in that period, when that really became too challenging, I went into an extensive therapy program. I did 15 months residential addiction therapy, where it was everyday emotional release, everyday working at myself. And when I came back into my company, I tried to bring what I learned in the community where I was doing the training into my business. So I was already trying to bridge personal growth, togetherness, a sense of community with business. When the recession came in 2008, everything fell apart. I lost absolutely everything. And in that period, the mother of my son decided that she needed to go back to England, and took my son back to England. And that was a moment where I looked at my business and I looked at everything I was trying to protect. And it was such a difficult time. And then I looked at my son, and I had no choice than to just leave everything behind and to be with him. He was 2.5 years at the time. When I look back at that time, what I realized is that there was no purpose in my company besides making money. So of course I couldn't get fulfilled from it. But this was what the world showed me: is if you work hard and you make a career and you get a house. I had 4 houses at the time. I had different cars. I didn't have to work for money. I wasn't happy at all. I was completely lost. So losing everything, I look back at the biggest blessing in my life. It gave me the opportunity to do something new, to look again, what does actually success means to me? What is it that I want to create in my life?
Yeah. Wow, just hear this story so often, and this kind of, this drive that we might have, and like you said, that the kind of the message that the world gives us, that if we work hard and get the sort of the trappings and make it look like we're doing everything to make us look good, then that should be enough. But it just isn't fulfilling. I wonder if everybody has to go through that journey.
Yeah, and within that, it seems to be successful to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And if I
or
look
a billionaire.
or a billionaire even, it's ridiculous. But if I look at the state of the world, there are not enough resources for everybody to want to become a millionaire. You create a culture where people want more than actually their fair share is, if you look at us as a global community. And that's why we have hunger in Africa. That's why people are dying of no clean drinking water. People are dying because they don't have access to medication. But if you look at globally how many resources there are, there's no reason for us all to be comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. But it seems like that's the only kind of framework that we're presented with. Like, this is the only way that we can do that. And we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the time to tap in and to kind of like understand more about what that means. And we don't have the kind of the other resources that we need to be happy, which is fulfillment and, sort of self-awareness and maybe even connection to something greater, or, Mother Earth and these other kinds of things that we might come to realize give us what we really need. But that isn't taught in school.
Exactly.
We're not helping our children with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also not taught in school how to deal with how you feel. It's like everybody needs to be together. Not everybody, but a lot of what we're taught is to wear a mask, to have it all together. And in my experience, when we can share where we are actually falling apart and where we don't have it together at all, and we are able to share that with the people close of us, that's where the real growth happens.
Yeah, that's really, that's really powerful. And helping children, encouraging children and adults, I think this is for absolutely everybody. But I've been thinking a lot this week about how children don't even know what their thoughts are, or where they come from, or how not to identify with them, and all these kinds of like very simple things that can be incredibly powerful. And yet we literally are wearing masks now.
That too, that's true.
It's literally manifesting, isn't it, in our times, and it feels as though whilst we can kind of look at the world in that way, I don't know. I think quite a lot of people also are having the sense that there's something else coming through, maybe something greater, something more meaningful, something more spiritual, maybe. And that feels like the vibe that you've really tuned into, Bart.
Yeah, in Bright Sky, I mean, lots of what is happening in Bright Sky is basically downloads, and I feel that, it's downloads from spirit. And I feel that so many people are touching into the same downloads. And depending on our life's journey, it presents itself in a certain way. It comes out in a certain way. And one of the main sentences in Bright Sky is meaningful connection through shared purpose. And if we have a sense of purpose of what's really important, which comes from the heart, which comes from our whole being, and we are willing to share that, then automatically there's meaningful connection. If I share my heart with you and you share your heart with me, we are meeting in a meaningful way, and it's automatically connected to our purpose. And that leads, in my experience, much more to fulfillment than trying to accumulate more money.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the download, what we might mean by download, but also how you felt that, and sort of, how those events that you've seen kind of unfolded so that you could really see that vision of what Bright Sky is.
How to describe downloads? I mean, I experience it as guidance. Why I'm saying it like that is because I truly feel that I cannot take credit for the vision of Bright Sky. I came with an original seed. The original seed was very simple. It was to bring business and spiritual community together by supporting practitioners, body workers, healers, coaches, counselors, with all the business aspects of their practice, so that they can bring their heart into the world and not get stuck in marketing and in creating a website and all these things. So that was the original seed. But the way Bright Sky is developing is almost like an organic garden. I planted the original seeds. I brought people in and inspired them to engage with the vision. And every person who's engaging with the vision brings a different puzzle piece to it. And as in the beginning, it was for mainly for practitioners, or actually for practitioners to help them to create a more thriving business. Now it's for practitioners, it's for community builders, it's for change makers, it's for ethical entrepreneurs, musicians, artists. And it's just blooming. And that sentence of meaningful connection through shared purpose is a big key piece in Bright Sky. We are, the way I see developing, creating a field of generosity where people are wanting to share. And from my experience, we in lots of circles, there's a lot of prayers and a lot of beautiful intention put out. And what I see for myself is when I am able to pour my heart into something, because there are people who are willing to receive what I have to offer, in that receiving of my offering, in receiving the love that I want to share, that's where the real gratitude comes from. So every time I'm sharing my heart and somebody is willing to receive it, I feel thank you inside myself, because where do I go with what I want to share if there's nobody to receive it?
That's lovely. It feels like it's sort of yeah, it's kind of tapping into this higher energy field. So you're creating a field of generosity. I really love that. And how so when we're in that field, how things can just sort of like naturally grow and we can connect, and that seems to be the sort of, and this is what I've found with, you know, there has been, like you say, a lot of people getting this download, perhaps at the same time across the world, maybe, you know, we've certainly seen a few projects, Nia Center being one of them as well,
Yeah,
into sort of springing up and people having this vision, this idea that we can come together somehow through
yeah.
this shared purpose. And while perhaps we're still figuring out what that is, like in how we
Absolutely.
can actually do that as human beings.
Absolutely. And in Bright Sky, we talk with so many people. We have 500 people who have joined Bright Sky, and we are in conversation with 500 more people. And people are coming in every day. And
Wow.
it is an experiment. What we're doing is an
Yeah.
experiment. We're co-creating with
Mhm.
spirit, and we're co-creating with the community we're building this for. And it
Yeah.
often means that we just have to go back inside and listen. What is actually needed next? There is no clear plan of do this, do that, do that, do that. There is no role model that is already doing what we're doing. So we're trying to figure it out together. So we're
Yeah.
initiating lots of little things, trying lots of little things out. Some things work. That's great. Some things don't work. You know, that's fine too, because you know we don't have a fixed agenda of how Bright Sky needs to develop. We don't have a particular form. It needs to be like this. We're quite flexible with it. We just want to bring people together and support people to come into a place where they can see how much nourishment comes from co-creation, from collaboration. It's a
Yeah.
bit like the time of the lone wolf is over. We need to do
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that said a lot over the last couple of years, you know, how people have been quite sort of isolated and
Mm,
growing their own thing and doing their own thing. And it's I think it's a big deal for humans generally to do that and to sort of come out of our own little bubbles and our own fear, I suppose, about what
mm,
it is to be seen and what it is to connect, and sort of fear of being let down and rejection and these kinds of things that we've been contending with,
yeah,
that is now trying to
absolutely.
sort of really come together and overcome.
Yeah.
What's that like, kind of logistically, Bart? How is that for you as a vision holder, bringing all these people together? I know we had a little chat about it yesterday, and kind of just like the day to day and the sort of, and how that feels for you. What's it like now that you can sort of see it getting to this kind of stage?
I mean, I feel that my personal journey of healing and of outgrowing unresolved issues from the past has gone very much hand in hand with the growth process of Bright
Wow.
Sky. And there's
Oh,
been
wonderful.
times where I just felt like it's not going to work, where I felt like I was falling apart, where I didn't know what to do
Yeah.
next. And
Mhm.
somehow I arrived in a place where I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the support that has arrived, for the people who are coming in. I feel that people being inspired by what I brought. Well, a lot of those people are such an inspiration for me. It's at times it's overwhelming, and I think what keeps me kind of sane and safe is that I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this on behalf of the vision of Bright Sky. So when I
Yeah.
talk about Bright Sky and when I work in Bright Sky, I am putting the purpose of Bright Sky in the center and not what I personally want from it. And it has
Yeah.
created very difficult moments where the purpose of Bright Sky required to keep going with things. Well, actually, I felt I didn't have the resources anymore. And now,
Mm.
after 6, 7 years being busy with it, for 2 years, 2.5 years, I'm working full time on this. And I'm busy with it for about 6, 7 years. In 3 weeks,
Wow.
we are going to launch the website and all the functionalities. And in 3 weeks, after 6, 7 years, I feel actually in 3 weeks, the adventure is going to start. We have done
Wow.
all the groundwork in the last years. We have such a field of people who are loving what we're doing, even though a lot of people still not totally understand what it means. So we've built a foundation by reaching people from heart to heart to heart, like a mycelium network, like the mushrooms. And now we're grounding the structure with all the professional business people so that it's clear how the communication goes, what people can expect.
Yeah.
It's becoming such a big project. And now I feel like in like 3 weeks, I have no idea what's going to happen to my life, how that is going to be, where actually that full-time working on it now becomes something of the collective community. What are we going to do with this together? And one of the things I like to share as well is like, we are inviting the last founding members to join our community. And that means that the founding members collectively are the founders. And in the center of Bright Sky, we have placed the Children's Fire. And the Children's Fire is a concept which is brought to the UK by Mac McCartney, the founder of Embercombe. And Mac is mentoring us and has given us the blessing to ground the Children's Fire in the center. And basically, the Children's Fire means that any decision we make in Bright Sky on behalf of the community needs to pass the Children's Fire, and it can only pass the Children's Fire if our decisions are of benefit for the next 7 generations to come. Yeah. So what we are doing, we're not doing it for us individually. We're doing it in a way that our personal needs are getting met as well. You know, we cannot live just being in service. We live in the practical reality where money plays a part as well. But the actual purpose in the center of Bright Sky is the future generations. And if you look at globally, if that would be embraced, that all the decisions made by politicians need to be of benefit for the future generations, then we're already there. You know, we don't need to change much. If that could be changed, we're there.
Wow, what a beautiful thought. And we'll come back and talk about this more in a second, but we're just going to put away right now to the Mayan Calendar Update Report with Kristina Batty. Wow, I just love what you say. We're going to come back and carry on talking about that in about 3 minutes. Enjoy, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey there, it's Kristina here for your Galactic Mayan Report for Saturday the 29th of August, and I am coming to you from a location in the beautiful park of the Wasing Estate down in Berkshire, and I'm here at Medicine Festival, just the first, I think, and only festival that's been given the full approval to go ahead by the Department of Culture, and it's just show you a little bit of this beautiful park. It's just so gorgeous here. So beautiful. Absolutely exquisite, beautiful land, and just having a magical time here for this weekend. Okay, so Galactic Mayan Report. So today is the red planetary Skywalker, and the Skywalker energy is all around the energy of that bridging of 2 worlds. So it's bringing together the like how we can be that bridge, how can we push out of our comfort zone and into more courage, to be the courageous one that steps into other worlds, to bring back the wisdom from those worlds into this realm. So we are on the 10th day of the yellow seed wave spell, and the yellow seed, as we were talking about in last week and the week before, is all around planting seeds of consciousness and planting our prayer deep into the earth, which just feels so perfect that I'm here at Medicine Festival this weekend, and this event is happening within the yellow seed wave spell, because we are doing just that. It's just every footstep is a prayer on this land, and we are really calling in all of the highest potential that there is for this world and this collective consciousness that we are brewing together. So we're going to be in this energy all the way through to Wednesday, when we will shift into Red Earth, which brings the blue castle of transformation, this middle month of the Galactic Mayan calendar, to a close, and we will enter into the yellow castle of receiving and integration, and being able to come into more of a flowering stage, where we can really take the lessons that we've learned so far since the 30th of March, when we entered into this 9-month process, and anchor that in. And we begin with Red Earth, and Red Earth is around the ground that's beneath us. It's how can we connect more to our Pachamama, to the Mother Earth that is underneath our feet. So it really is taking that wisdom and anchoring it in, but also remembering that Red Earth is a galactic being. The Earth is our home and is our grounding energy, but also is a cosmic being that's traveling all the way through the universe and the cosmos. So it's blending those 2 energies together. So again, a really great opportunity to really get into nature over this next 13 days, to really go into what it means to be a human on this earth plane. So I hope you have a magical week, and I will be back next Saturday to give you an update on how we're getting on with the blue, the red earth energies, and I look forward to catching up with you then. Take care, sending you so much love. See you later.
And welcome back, everybody. And thank you so much to Kristina there, out there in the wilds, in the woods. Hope you're having a brilliant time. Thank you for the update before. And we're back now and live with my first guest who's joining me today. It's Bart de Greeve. I'm going to have a little attempt at saying your surname. And Bart is the founder, the vision holder of Brightsky Community. And but I didn't realize this had been like kind of around you for 7 years. This when it first you first felt it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has had different names as well. At the first, I was calling it personal retreats, where I tried to create something where different practitioners could offer sessions on an individual basis to one person, so that all the different skills could help them. Later, it turned into Ubuntu community, which is a term from Africa. And it just been transforming, constantly going back to the drawing board, integrating what worked and what didn't. And with startups like this, it takes a long time because it's kind of a download from spirit, but it needs to find the form in which it actually can work in the reality where we are now. And I think there's so many people who've had similar ideas of creating something online. So there's also a lot of inspiration going around already. But yes, it's been 7 years.
Wow, that's some commitment. And I think, you know, whoever's sending that, wherever it's being from, it's got to land with the right person, with the right attributes and the right qualities. You know, it's a very difficult position to be in, really, to balance that. Yeah. And sort of not, you know, some people might, for example, have the tendency to sort of see the power that they can sort of experience in that, or the financial side of it, and be sort of focused on that. But it demands something else. It demands this different qualities.
Yeah, I part of the growth process in Bright Sky has been connected to my reluctancy to be a leader.
Yeah.
And the reluctancy to be a leader came from previous experiences when things went pear-shaped, that as a leader, you can be put on a pedestal and then you can be kicked down as well. And I've had a very, very, you know, quite traumatic experience with that. So I really wanted to do this together. And we are doing it with a beautiful group of people together. But the part where I personally needed to bring in leadership for the vision has come with a reluctancy as well. Yeah. And I think actually it's a good thing. You know, I think when you lead a community project like this, if you really want it and you really want everything that comes with it, then it becomes much more of a danger. And what we are trying to do is really integrate shared leadership. You know, we have co-ownership and shared leadership. And that's quite a journey. It's quite a journey to bring people together and to share leadership when a project still needs to find its real form. And it's just, you know, if you look at the word community, we can have a conversation with 10 people about community, and everybody has a slightly different association in their mind. And unless it's clear what we really talk about, it can end up people pulling in different directions. And we've had that quite a few times in Bright Sky, and actually it has enriched Bright Sky as well. It just meant that it took a long time to come where we are now, that in 3 weeks, actually the adventure is going to start. That's how it feels.
That's so exciting.
It is.
So what does that look like, Bart? So you've been building up this kind of register, if you like, and collection of like really, really amazing practitioners working in fields outside of the mainstream on the whole, using different sort of modalities that might be new to some people, but certainly around sort of shamanic work and energy healing, some really inspiring healing musicians and sound healers in there as well, and all kinds of different styles of healing modalities coming together. So, and that's been building. So what happens in 3 weeks' time? How does that connect with the outer world?
I can tell a little bit about the structure. We have an online platform. We have invested big time in the online platform with the contributions of all the people who have decided to join. That online platform is going to go worldwide. We're going to launch Bright Sky in Holland in September as well. We're going to start there. After that, it's going to be Germany, the States, Canada, and the idea is to have Bright Sky in every country, where we have our own circle in every country tending to the children's fire in that country. And the vision is global, but the focus is local. So before the lockdown, as you know, because you've been to one of them, or maybe more, we've had 7 places in the UK where we had people on the ground in person creating meetings for their community there to start building it there. So we had London, Manchester, Bristol, Frome, Stroud, Glastonbury, and Totnes. The vision in the UK is to have hundreds of places where people are coming together in person, where they receive resources from the center of Bright Sky, which they can bring to their community, to bring value, content, tools to their community to build a field in their local area where they live, where Bright Sky can come together and bring the support further in. Yeah. The end stage of the vision is that we have memberships for the public as well, where people from the public can receive all different types of discounts and free goodies and video content, etc., to tune into the community. So yeah, it's a mix of having a global online presence where we are bringing the support in small groups of 15, 20, 30 people, 10 people, by bringing the resources to them to create a field of community in their own area.
Yeah. Wow, and then that's going to sort of, like you say, branch out more internationally,
all over the world,
to make that kind of that web and those connections all around the world.
Yeah, and one of the keys is co-ownership. In the UK, Bright Sky is owned by 108 different people, from which you are one of them. You are one of the co-owners of Bright Sky with me. And 50% of all the profit, at least, of what we're doing is going into community projects like tree planting projects for homeless people, or connecting and collaborating with people who are already doing amazing initiatives. And just to bring the support of a big community behind all these small local projects. So yeah, the combination of having a global vision and a local focus is something we feel very strongly about, that's the way forward. And within the local focus, basically, we're trying to bring a model of a healthy village. If I look at my personal life at the moment, it's madness. I'm a part-time single father. I have to do the shopping, I have to do the cooking, I have to do the cleaning. I'm working different roles in Bright Sky, and it shouldn't be like this. If you look at the smaller local communities, people were doing a lot more for each other. There was a lot more support. Now we all live in a simple house or in a big house, whatever we live in. We have our own car, we do our own shopping, we do our own cooking. There is no sense of community in there. And, we hope that Bright Sky can kind of bring something more to the table when it comes to sharing and collaborating.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's really inspiring to people. We can find a space where that can happen, because it might not be able to actually happen in your actual, where you live in your community, but we can start to sort of build the ideas of that, which is wonderful. So how can people connect and get involved? How can practitioners connect and get involved in this? And how does the public get involved?
At the moment, we still have 250 places, something like that. 250 places for people to join as a founding member, which are the founders of Bright Sky. For the next 3 weeks, people can connect with us and have a personal conversation about what that means. But basically, it means that the founders, they make a contribution to what we are collectively creating. After the founding members period is over, then people can sign up by becoming a member by paying a monthly membership fee. So in the future, after the next 3 weeks, people can become a member, they pay a membership fee and have access to all the resources.
How much is that, Bart? How much does that
The
work
future
out that.
membership fees are probably about 10 to 20 pounds per month, depending on how much access they want to have for all the resources. To become
Yeah.
a founding member is a one-off contribution of 222 pounds, where people are a
Okay.
member for life. So in exchange for the 222 pounds contribution, they never ever have to pay a membership fee. And they form the first ring around the children's fire as the founders of Bright Sky. So I imagine
Yeah.
777 people holding hands around the children's fire, where we're all tending to the purpose of the children's fire, which means the benefits for the next 7 generations, which, by the way, is not just human life, it's all life. It's trees, it's animals, it's all life. So yeah, and when people become a founding member, then they have access to monthly founders meetings, they have access to the Bright Sky hubs when they are initiated, they have instantly access to 5 extraordinary e-courses that we've created. We've created an e-course with Avanti in London, the self-care for practitioners. We created an e-course with Catherine Hale around sexuality and trauma, with Landa around authentic marketing and branding, with Philip Shepherd from Canada about embodiment, and a beautiful voice e-course with Susie Rowe Prater called The Living Instrument. And those e-courses kind of show the diversity in content that we want to bring to our community. And we have lots of people from the business world who are doing inspirational talks where they give little webinars about business tools and how to get better organized, how to create structure, etc., etc.
That's wonderful. Really giving that support that's often needed for practitioners who would be extremely talented in whatever it is they're doing, their art or their healing, but may have less experience with the business side of things and
a lot less passion.
Things.
Yeah, and a lot less passion for the business side of things as well.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, I believe that if we do what comes natural in our heart and what brings joy to our heart, then it comes with ease. And that is actually what really grows us and what nourishes us, instead of having the focus on the things we're not good enough at. You know, you can be a practitioner, struggle with marketing, and then all your focus goes into marketing. And you're just focusing on what is painful. Well, actually, if you get some support coming in that helps you with the marketing and you can focus on what your heart really wants to do, it's much more likely to become successful and much more likely to become nourishing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. We've just got a couple of questions. I think we could carry on talking all day, to be honest, because there's just so many different avenues to this.
Absolutely.
And there's some, how do you keep the communication going between the members? Well, I think that could be a separate conversation. It's a really interesting question, but yeah, like we just were talking about before, like the logistics behind actually doing that and bringing people together. And
I mean, there's one thing I can say into that. It's like one of our main missions at the moment is to find ways how we can have people engage with Bright Sky, and how can we nourish and nurture this feeling that Bright Sky is a collective community project, and everybody who brings their heart into it can get exposure, but also can get nourishment and support from it. So it's a really good question. We're really busy with it. We have monthly meetings for the founders. We will create circles of interest in which people can engage around certain topics. But we need the community to really step into it and start doing that. So at times we can sit back and think like, what do we need to do? But somehow I trust that will kind of organically grow as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, and even for sort of members in the public, it's about getting used to that. It's a new community that's forming. How do we get used to engaging with that? Thank you. That was taken, Paul. Thank you. Thank you, Bart. That's sort of we're coming towards the end of the interview, and I just really appreciate the time that you've given to share this and to share about Bright Sky. I can't recommend that enough to people to get involved and get in touch. If you're a practitioner or you're just looking or feeling that there's more, maybe there's more you can do to help yourself more holistically, sort of health-wise, more to explore. That this really does give a very solid platform for people to do that in. The website is brightsky.community, is that right?
Yeah, brightsky.community. Yes. Yeah.
And I think you have a presence on Facebook as well. So Facebook.
We have Bright Sky Community Facebook page, and for the founders, we have a separate page. So anybody who signs up in the next 3 weeks, they have access to the Bright Sky Founders page, which is kind of, a separate group within the community, the first ring around the fire. And people can connect with me directly through bart@brightsky.community. Anybody who signs up at this stage, we like to have a conversation with them to welcome them in properly. But also to talk about the experimental nature and to make sure that people don't come up with a ticket where they think they have a whole lot of expectations. We want people to join because they feel the vision in their heart and they feel the call to engage with what we're doing and to contribute.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you so much, Bart.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, let's keep in touch and sort of, touch base and on the show and sort of with updates and see what's going on there.
Yeah, and in a couple of weeks, we could have another talk about how people can get engaged and all this, because in a couple of weeks we're live and we're not really sure how that's going to happen ourselves, what all is going to happen from there.
Exciting times, and congratulations on that and getting it to this point after all these years. Really well done, and thank you, Bart.
All right.
Thanks everybody.
Lots of love. Lots of love
to you. Bye, darling. Thank you. Thank you. And now we have Nicola Charnock joining us, and I think she's been rustling up morning cacao shots to give us a real good boost start to the morning. And enjoy the video. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, Charmain.
Thank you.
Morning, NiaTV. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Nicola Charnock and I'm a naturopathic. Well, I'll stand up a bit because the sun is so bright, which is amazing today. Such a great day. So my name is Nicola Charnock. I'm a naturopathic nutritionalist. I do a lot of consultations online, and now we can meet. I also do them in person. I do retreats as well. There's a group of us that do them over in La Manga. We work on gut, liver and brain health. And finally, I also do raw cakes. I have a company called Naturally Raw, and we deliver raw cakes. Now, everything that we do, we always incorporate cacao, because chocolate, my friends, is so good for us. It's brilliant for brain health. It's brilliant for gut health. It makes us feel great for a reason. It helps the secretion of neurotransmitters in our gut. So then those neurotransmitters, we now know 90% of them are made in our gut, then travel up to our brain to help support the dopamine pathways, our happy head hormones. So this is why it's so good for us. So I tend to have cacao shots in the morning. So I'd like to share the recipe with you. It's super simple. If you get yourself some milk of your choice, I'm using almond milk this morning. You could use oat milk, you could use normal milk. If you are using cow's milk, please try and make it organic, so you've not got the growth hormone in there on non-organic milks. You could just use water if you wanted. It just makes it that little bit more creamier if you use milk. Okay, so I'm just doing a small shot for everybody. I'm making 4 today for the family when they wake up. So it's so good to have it in a morning. The reason why is because cacao is really high in something called tyrosine. Tyrosine helps support the sympathetic nervous system, our get up and go, to make us feel more productive. So try not to have chocolate at night. So that's why if I'm speaking to people, I try and say, don't have your movie night at night if you then associate watching TV with munching on chocolate. So get up early and have your movie night in the morning, well, that kind of thing anyway. So so that's why athletes tend to have a lot of dark chocolate in the morning. They also have steak in the morning. If they are meat eaters, and that's for the same reason. It's because it's really high in tyrosine. So we've got almond milk. I'm going to use a cacao just to make it nice and dark. So as I'm doing before, I'm just going to do basically 2 nice big teaspoons of cacao. Now I'm using raw ceremonial grade cacao. I've already grated it. So grate a really good dollop. I've got quite a bit going on in there. I want it really rich into that mix. Now, optional, depends on what nut butter you like. If you like nut butter, if you don't worry about it. I just make it just feels that little bit deeper and nicer. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons. So I'd use half a teaspoon per person. So as we're making 4, excuse fingers. Now, you can sweeten it. If you want to sweeten it, if you're vegan, I'm using a coconut blossom sugar. You could use date syrup. You could use agave. If you're not and you're vegetarian or anything but not vegan, you could use honey. Why don't you try and put manuka honey in? Manuka honey has its own added benefits. It's got a natural antibiotic benefit in it. It's really good, helps our immune system. So if you are open to honey, try a good quality manuka honey. Just if you are heating this, don't waste your money on manuka honey, because as soon as you start heating something with manuka honey, and the active, which is what you're paying for, disperses, so it's no longer active. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to do a teaspoon, I'll use this one, a teaspoon of coconut blossom sugar. Now if you're feeling really posh, well, just feeling like you really want to treat yourself, try some vanilla paste. Yeah, vanilla paste or vanilla essence. I'm just going to pop a little bit of that in. It is Saturday after all, let's treat ourselves. Now, I'm going to blend this up. If you wanted to, and you didn't want to just keep it as a cacao shot, you could go a bit crazy and put more milk in, and then you could add other ingredients, so you're making it more of a cacao smoothie. You could add bananas. Bananas are really high in potassium, great for our heart health, great for water retention or control of our water balance. You could put some Brazil nuts in. Brazil nuts, really high in selenium, which also supports brain health. You could put cashews in. The trusty cashew is the highest in magnesium of all nuts. Magnesium, we all need magnesium. And whether you are stressed, mentally, physically, environmentally, if you're taking quite a few medications, or you're perhaps not in the best environment where you live, there's lots of smoke and pollution. Yeah, if you're really stressed at the moment, quite a few people are struggling with stress, anxiety, depression. All of that saps our magnesium out of our body. So even if we think we have a really good diet, yeah, always try and add a little bit more magnesium, whether it's through food, whether it's through magnesium salt baths or a supplement. So I could add all that. You could also add a little bit of salt. Now, salt isn't the enemy. Salt is to do with the balance between water and salt in our body, and that's whether sometimes people think, oh, I'm getting cramp, I've got too much salt in my body. Sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes you have sweated more salts out, and that's why you're getting cramp. On a lovely day like today, it's going to be nice and hot. You might want to put a little bit of salt into, just a pinch, into this cacao shot, and then you've got a salted cacao taste. Okay, I think my little ones are waking up. I better get this done. So, let's get this on. And it is as simple as that. So, 4 beautiful little cacao shots for my family to enjoy. A great way to start the day. Okay, thanks very much. Have a great day.
Welcome back, everybody, and big thank you to Nicola Charnock there for the cacao shots for selling. And Nikki's actually going to be joining us next week. We are holding a Wellbeing Resilience Day next week for the 9th, and I'm going to talk about that more at the end of the show today. First of all, I'm joined now by my second guest. I have with me Mark Sutton. Hello,
Pleased
Mark.
Yeah, pleased to be here.
Nice
Good
to have
see
you here. Thank you. Joining us live from Todmorden up in the valley. And Mark is a trauma relief and biodynamic breath worker practitioner. And we met Mark because you work in the fields of trauma, as do I. And I saw that you were putting some pretty good stuff out there to help people. And so we've been working together for a little while now. But I'm interested in, Mark, in what got you interested in this field of work. I know it's not what you've always done. I know you're a scientist at heart, really, but something sort of led you in this direction. And I'm always interested to hear these stories. And yeah, just
Well,
What can you tell us about that?
it was interesting watching when you were interviewing Bart there. He was talking about his journey. I thought, well, that very much mirrors my journey through things. Yeah, very, very much so. So yeah, I had a very successful career in the scientific field. But it's only looking back that you begin to realize, hey, something's not quite right here. I had all these internal feelings that there was things weren't quite good enough, or I wasn't fully experiencing life. And you wouldn't class it as depression or anxiety, but it was all like a low level sense that my life was not where it needed to be. And then about maybe 15 years ago, there was a couple of really major traumas, family traumas and work traumas that coincided to come together and brought a lot of stuff up for me as to where I wanted to go, where I wanted to do. So I made the decision then to actually begin to look at where my life path was. So it was, the major change was coming from an awareness that something was going on in my life from my childhood that was not congruent with who I am. And then really these two major traumas brought up the need to change. So that's where I began to move into initially the field of Tantra, particularly with breathwork, and then moving into in 2015, discovering this system called the biodynamic breath and trauma release system, which really blew my mind. And studying and looking at all you just realize how much trauma there is out there and how our current methods of managing it aren't actually as effective as they could be. And so this looks a different way of managing and coping with the trauma, so coping somatically through the body. So that in a nutshell, coming through Tantra and then going into this trauma release, is where I've been on now for 56 years of a journey.
Wow. Yeah, and it does seem to like mirror so many people's journeys. It's almost like, you know, we just have this sense as we're getting into our 20s, maybe that something's not quite right, and we're not really feeling very fulfilled, and we're trying everything to get that. And like you said, this kind of realization, like this kind of thread that comes through from childhood. But we don't make those links. We don't make that.
No,
that
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's understanding that it's very early in childhood. You know, I was very premature, so there was a lot of issues there about caregiver bonding. And they translated through in the drive to be successful all the time. And actually, when you reach the top of the mountain, you realize it can be an awfully lonely place, you know. So it was looking around and having the vision to see what was going on. But to do that, I needed to start doing the self-work. Absolutely. To release that. But I needed the prime motivator. It's these two traumas coming together in a really major event that provided the fission material for me to move forward, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's often what it takes for us, isn't it? To sort of jolt us out and to try and find something more and look beyond what just seems to be available.
Yes.
You know, like you just said about how the way that we deal with trauma in our society tends to be that we don't deal with it. We do the opposite. We try and push it down and keep going and stick up a lip and all these kinds of things. So that happened for you, Matt. And what was it then that took you from there into the breath work? Because that could take somebody a long time to find, but you seem to have found it quite soon.
Well, I think part of my beginning to experience this was about 10 years previously. I began to explore very gently what Tantra was. And a large part for me of Tantra was using breath work. So it seemed a very natural process for me to begin to explore into how our breath can begin this process of opening up our bodies. And then I took it forward. I took it forward from that time 15 years ago when the trauma happened. And 5 years later, I left the company. So I have a very steady approach to what was going on, you know, and so it was this internal journey. But for me, I needed to be able to do what may for some people be simple stuff like name a feeling. I had no idea what feelings were.
Wow. Yeah.
Apart from
I think
anger.
a lot of people can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anxiety and fear. But when it comes to kind of like, you know, the nuances of all the other things that we can feel as well. Like a lot of
Yeah, I mean, it's
people-
like joy and love and fulfillment. They were abstract concepts, and it's only now that as we're doing all this greater understanding of what's going on in our nervous systems and how we suppress ourselves from feeling, that not only are we suppressing the anxiety, we're suppressing the joy and the love. We just don't know what they are. We put a cap over actually fully feeling these. So part of what my journey was to realize that it's okay to feel these, and that it's okay to feel the uncomfortable feelings like anger, like anxiety, because it's all part and parcel of the human condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And by doing that and allowing ourselves to feel it, that's what helps us process it and to move it through. Like you said, and we can start moving those obstacles to that joy and love and harmony and peace and all those things that we're looking for.
Yeah, and it was a major like light bulb moment when I realized that the obstacle wasn't a psychological obstacle anymore. My rational mind could work with this. It was actually somatic. My body was creating the conditions to protect myself in the form of tensions. So I would have a typical body type, but somebody who has suppressed feelings for many years is hunched down in tension. So my journey was using the skills and the system I was training in to actually fully incorporate somatic experiences as well as the mental experiences. So bringing mind and body together.
So let's explore that a bit more and understand like how breath work specifically helps us to do that. It's less about, like you said, like the mind experience and sort of relating that to how we feel it in the body.
Yeah.
How does breath work do that? How does it help us and how does it work?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of the new science behind it is all about the polyvagal theory and the work of Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk, who realized that a lot of our experiences that we cannot process are held within the memory network in the body. But breathwork itself, it actually can bypass the rational mind. We have ego defenses. So we're bypassing our mental defenses and coming right in through the limbic system of the brain via a conscious connected breathing. And that can open up the opportunity for us to begin to explore what's happening in our bodies in terms of the functional freeze, the functional lack of feeling that people have when they're in exposure to stressful and traumatic events, or even minor traumatic events over extended periods of time, and particularly childhood events. So for me, the idea that you're going into the limbic system and bypassing your ego defenses is how I would see this as working. Yeah.
Brilliant. So we're looking at maybe connecting with how the trauma and what we're dealing with now is the memories of trauma, obviously, because we don't stay in traumatic circumstances from the past. So it's just how that's actually encoded into the body and taking the breath into it. It's almost like bypassing the parts of us that don't want us to go there, breathing straight into where it's being held physically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another way of sort of looking at that is the breathwork is an important part to get you in, but we also work with body work to actually deal with the chronic tensions in the body, because where we're holding the energy of our experiences, and these experiences, even though they're long in the past, can have a lot of energy and emotional energy attached to them. So you'd be looking at, if you can imagine that if your life is a river, when an event occurs, it creates a little whirlpool, so it's a trauma vortex, as it's known as, and that we carry along with us. And that has some profound physiological and emotional effects on the nervous system. So you find that those who have experienced different traumas may have a reduced resilience and a window of tolerance within the nervous systems. That means they overwhelm very quickly. In overwhelming, then they'll hold all that energy in their body. So yeah, the breath goes in, but we use other techniques drawn, for example, from trauma release exercise, the Telly, drawn from the ideas of Peter Levine and his somatic experiencing, all combine with the breath work to produce this system that allows you to fully release and experience energy and joy to life. Once that energy is released, it takes a lot of energy to maintain it. So once it's released, this tension, that energy is available for you for other stuff, for actually living life. So that will be something that typically will be experienced as people begin to release all that stuff that's been trapped for decades.
So I assume that's what you found. You know, this must have had a big impact on your life.
Yeah, I'm not the person I was 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
You know, I'm laughing a lot more. I'm a lot more relaxed. It's like Bart said, you know, all the money in the world is not going to be making up for what I'm experiencing now. You know, you go from on the top to actually just being fulfilled in basically like the Maslow's. You've got that idea that you're going up this ladder, but you're doing it in a way that's congruent with who you are.
Yeah, that's lovely. You know, and you're helping a lot of people along the way.
Yeah,
I know you were. Yeah.
No, go on. No.
But I know that you were kind of impacted on, because your work is very, you know, sort of, you do one-to-one and group work sessions as well, and so you've been like really impacted by COVID-19.
I have,
and the restrictions around that, and also you've got an interest in the genetics with your scientific background and the sort of the whole kind of medical and scientific side of this that's happening. But it's been interesting watching how you've pivoted through that, Mark, and how you've still managed to find ways to help people, and how you've got involved in the community up there in Todd.
Yeah, I mean, say the year has been absolutely crazy. I mean, so we had the floods in for 4 solid weeks, and we did a healing day, and then straight after that, COVID hit. And of course, what I'm doing is breath work, so we have to be really cautious about how we approach doing it. So we made a move online. So, and it's actually translated very well to an online platform. You can actually have major one-to-one sort of experiences that are held in a very safe environment, and also group experiences. So we ramp down the amount of breathing that you do. So you just experience what's going in. And this leads to the theory that less is more, that you don't need to have a big cathartic release. You can just do things gently, and it can actually be a more subtle experience. Now with the lifting, I am taking one-to-one clients, but very, very limited basis. But I'm noticing that there is a shift in the clients that are coming through.
Right.
A lot of my clients now what I call COVID clients. So they're forming into 2 distinct groups. So you have the people who are recovering from COVID, and you have the people on the front line who have experienced the trauma of what happened. And it's been estimated, there's been research done, for example, that with severe COVID, those who've been intubated, 96% of those, or 95% of those, are showing symptoms of PTSD, because the whole thing was actually traumatic. And even though they may have been medically induced coma, the body, as Bessel van der Kolk says, the body knows the score. The body remembers what this terribly invasive procedure was to try and get them through. And all
the ventilators and the people being on ventilators through the experience, even if they've been put into an induced coma, then what you're saying is, even if consciously we're not aware, the body's still recording what's happening.
It is, yeah. Peter Levine talks about that, about medical procedures being a source of trauma. And in particular, before the COVID, I've seen this with C-sections, for example. There are a lot of women have trauma that's held around when they've had C-sections for birth. And then, you know, so this is the way it's beginning to change now. And I think that practitioners going forward, whatever the modality, it's perhaps good to be aware that there is a thing called long COVID, which is people who are suffering 5-6 months of the similar symptoms. And I have clients who are doing that. And as I'm working with them, I'm finding that some of the symptoms are being alleviated by doing breathwork, by doing the trauma release system. So it's indicating to me there's a trauma component to what's going on there as well. As one client said to me, he described it as the COVID terror, that as we were working with it, the sense of fear and the sense of terror that they had when they realized they had this infection actually manifested in exactly the same symptoms briefly while we were doing the breathwork, and then disappeared. Wow. Yeah. So this is the way it's changing. And of course, we're working with the frontline staff, and I'm looking at those who've been working in the ICU units. And they're saying that the talking therapy, the psychotherapist, you don't understand what we went through. But with the body work, it's beginning to release that, slowly release that core tensions around it. And also with care home staff who maybe have been in a prolonged, very strict, prolonged situation. Yeah. Which is classic for developing trauma.
Absolutely. Wow. So there's a trauma from like the shock of having it.
Yes.
And the kind of, you know, there's a lot more research about this, and the kind of there's the actual thing, the disease or the trauma, you know, sort of the accident or the injury, and then there's the shock of it as well. That sort of goes in on an emotional level, which may also resonate with previous traumas, where we may have felt out of control or fearful for our lives. You know, there's like a threat to life or there's trauma. So that's happening to people as they're coming out of the actual physical symptoms of it. There's still the kind of residual trauma stuff and all the symptoms that are with that. And then there's all the people that have been involved in all the different ways, isn't there? Like you're saying, the care homes, nurses, frontline staff, all of those things.
I know we've talked about it before, even in the lockdown, that sense of anxiety of this, that's brought up a lot of trauma for people that maybe they thought they dealt with. It did for me. I was really surprised that I had moments, certainly in the first few weeks of it, where some deep core childhood stuff around authority, around fear of dying, all came up. And in a weird way, it could be, if you could manage it. And I know people who have been severely traumatized have really managed this crisis very well because they had the tools in place to actually manage what was coming up. They were used to it, they were familiar to it, they knew how they could self-care effectively.
It's really making me think, because there are a lot of people that are living in terror right now, like really living in fear, not just in terms of like the disease or the virus, but in terms of, you know, there's a lot of stuff floating around about what's happening in our society, and without naming anything, but you know, just a lot of that, like you said, that fear of authority sort of kicking in as well, and you know, the loss of our human rights and this kind of stuff, all seems to be sort of like building together to cause a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, and it helps to understand that a lot of this is an evolutionary process, but you know, the trauma response itself is actually designed to get us out of trouble. And if you cannot get out of trouble, your sympathetic system keeps rising in its level till it reaches a point, and then you go into collapse. You know, we talk about this. I don't know if I have time to talk today, but you know, the polyvagal theory really has revolutionized how we look for this. But we continue to drive to try and get us back to feeling safe. And that's why people do report, for example, if they switch off Facebook for 3 days, they feel better. Because
and the news.
Yes, yeah. And it's only meant to last 2 or 3 minutes. This response is there to get you out of trouble. Yeah. So when you're facing all these world situations, the uncertainty around us, which we can't control, then we're a situation where our nervous system goes onto high alert, and in cases can either get stuck into high alert, that we see everything as a threat, or we can just shut down and just pull away from everything and go into this depressive state, so the anxiety, panic, depression. And it's affecting a lot of people.
So even when we can't control, as often I'd even say always, we can't control the outside world. What we can do is learn how to control, manage, grow, heal what's happening in the inside world and what's happening to our own systems. There's an awful lot we can do about that. And again, you know, tapping into what Bart was sharing before, there's like different modalities, different practitioners, new ways of doing that. Doesn't mean taking a tablet. Or avoiding things. You know, there's a kind of a real emphasis now on the need to really feel things and really be with things and really connect with what's happened to us before, so that we don't have to feel frightened. Because quite often when we're in our front rooms feeling scared, when we look around, there's nothing actually happening. Like there's nothing actually going on in the room. Yet we can feel like really overwhelmed and really frightened. And it's getting back into that space of
I mean, say there's several ways of doing it, and so many different modalities. Now, for me, breathwork is because different types of breathwork are out there that can calm a nervous system. You know, or rather than go in and try and keep exploring it, maybe what you need to do at the time is just calm until there's such times as you can integrate what's going on. And even mental processes like understanding that you're viewing your world through your autonomic nervous system can be a big step in understanding that, okay, I'm seeing something here. Is it real? You know, I'm reading a Facebook post. I've seen a news report. How is this affecting me in my home right now? And it may not be. But it's a classic feature that we do try to control our environments. And that could be a digital environment, it can be a real world environment, we withdraw, or it can be people around us. So in trying to feel safe, we might try to control everybody else that we know to keep to self-soothe and manage our systems on that. And going back about, and I know you mentioned it, I mean, maybe take a little shift away now, but the epigenetics, you know, sometimes we're pre-programmed to do this.
I mean, epigenetics is such an interesting field, and like it's kind of shifted the way that we see our trauma and how we're operating as humans. And can you just briefly describe that, Mark? What epigenetics is?
Well, my understanding of it is that you may know, working off the gene keys there, is that we have a genetic component that can actually be inherited from, well, everything's inherited from our parents, but the traumatic components can be inherited. It's been shown, for example, that you can look at, I think it's called DNA methylation caps. You can express genes that have been as a result of, for example, the Holocaust with the Jews. They can detect those. And one of the ideas, and it was just Bart came up and he talked about 7 generations, that this can go back up to 7 generations in our family. So you're pre-programmed to feel anxiety, to feel the depression anyway, you know.
It's fascinating. Like we literally inherit our ancestors' traumas, and that can literally be in the form of the memories as well. I've had that experience with clients who realize they're not processing their this time trauma, they're processing something that happened to their grandparents, and it's still in their kind of memory network makeup.
it's fascinating. I had somebody who was Irish who suddenly said, "Why am I processing a memory of being on a slave ship? You know, one of the coffin ships going from Ireland, that sort of processing a memory so far back."
Yeah, yeah.
And they couldn't understand where it was coming from.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be integral to chronic fatigue. It was integral to the chronic fatigue. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Like we don't know where it's actually coming from. You know, it's not even our stuff sometimes, or not something that's kind of obviously happened to us in this lifetime. It's been passed down. I think that's really changed. I know it's definitely changed the way that psychotherapists work now that that's been accepted into the mainstream of science. As a real thing, and it also helps to explain what people experience when they're processing. But I think it's just a really empowering thing to appreciate that it's not always us.
No, that's true, that we are the sum of what's happening. It's also empowering to realize that you can change it. You're not stuck with it. You know, that needs to be said as well. It's not something that you know, may put you into a victim state. I can't do anything about it. It was my great grandfather had this. You can begin to process it, and it's as has been said, that if you start with yourself, not only will you heal your immediate family, you have a chance of healing the trauma back from the 7 generations as well,
and the 7 generations into the future as well.
Yes, so backwards and forwards. So the work we do on ourselves will resonate through. Just throughout the whole sort of network that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important. Remember a meme going around a while ago saying something like how trauma comes down through the family until somebody decides to heal that off. And I feel like, you know, we've really got the tools and the resources now to do that in our generation in a way that we've not had before, really, that we can really understand and appreciate.
But even doing that even if people don't believe in epigenetics, if you start doing this work and then you begin to look at, say, your parents, you begin to understand, well, look what they went through. We didn't have the trauma understanding we have then, you know. My mother lived through pit disasters where they would just, I don't want to trigger anybody, but they would wait all night for the bodies to be brought up. And they said, you never showed emotion.
Yeah.
And that carries through, you know, but in understanding, so it's easy to resent your parents for that. And there was a lot of resentment going on for me at a time there. But it's also then I began to understand, well, hang on. They were processing stuff and they didn't have the tools we have now. This was 1920, 1934, this happens when we were 9. You know, so it gives you a greater understanding and more compassion for what maybe, you know, the people before you have gone through. And also a greater understanding and compassion what you need to do for the people going forward ahead of you. You know?
Absolutely, yeah. And bringing that, like you say, compassion, forgiveness for yourself for what you're going through, what people might have gone through before. Sure. Mark, can you share with us just a kind of like a minute of a really nice simple breath that people would just tune into? We're coming towards the end of the interview, but it'd just be nice to share something that people can maybe check in and out with today and just try.
Yeah, we're just going to take a little journey through the body. So I'm just going to invite people to just close their eyes. And we're going to do a simple connected breath in and out through the nose. Okay. And all we're going to do is just explore what it's like in your body and just to feel where the breath is flowing and maybe where the breath isn't flowing easily. So it'll give you some pointers in areas maybe you would like to do some work with. So simply just close your eyes and just notice your breathing at the moment. Is it into the top of the chest? Is it into the belly? And I invite you to breathe in and out through the nose and make it connected so there's no pause between the inhale and the exhale. And imagine the breath is going through the whole of the body. Just notice as you're doing that if there's any change in your physical state or your mental state. Just notice what happens and be curious about this. And just notice where maybe the breath is flowing smoothly or the breath is stuck, or you feel that it's not moving as easily as it should. And just bring your attention to those points, or to one of those points that really comes out as being blocked. And just notice what impressions you get there. Then bring your awareness back to the whole of the body and find a spot that feels really easy. Bring your attention to that, and then look at the spot that was blocked, or the area that was blocked, from that easy place. And just notice if there's any difference. Notice if there's any change immediately that happens. Then come back into the easy space. Relax your breathing. And just give yourself a little shake and come back to the room. So we use a little bit of felt sense and pendulation titration.
That's lovely. Yeah. So just even doing that, just taking a minute to tune in, see whether there's any tension, blockages, just breathing towards that, softening. And if we're doing that on a physical level, we're kind of, that's happening on a psychological level as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. That's brilliant. Thank you. So we're actually doing a workshop on this tomorrow. Mark and I do a regular workshop sharing this information, pulling these different approaches together: polyvagus nerve theory, breathwork, internal family systems. It's really just 3 hours of sharing exercises and tools and things that we can do to self-help as well within that time. So that's tomorrow. It's only 20 quid. And you can find the details of that on my Facebook page and on Mark's
page as well. And it's interesting, you know, the coming back, if these exercises are designed to access the vagus nerve, in particular the ventral vagal system, which is a social engagement, to help you to reduce anxiety. And certainly, you know, and one of my COVID clients uses just one exercise of those, and it really helps to manage the waves of anxiety that this person feels. It's just a simple pressure in a certain spot on the head.
Can you show us, Mark? Just show us where
yeah, for sure. So if you put your fingers, here we go, my face comes close to the thing. So if you put your finger, you'll find a little groove in the orbital there, and you just circle it and then press. And hold it for up to 2 minutes and just see if there's a body response.
It's tender. Should it be sore?
It's a little bit tender. If it's a bit tender, don't press too hard. That tenderness, that is a sign of contraction. Funny enough, it's a sign of where the charge may be stuck.
Okay.
And then you can do the same the other eye with the other eye. Find that little groove. A little bit of rub, then you just press and hold. And say for this particular client, this is the one method that stops them. They can stop it dead, stop the anxiety dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful. And it is important to try all these different things.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all. It's finding the particular interventions that your body responds to.
Yeah.
See, this side feels completely different. There's no soreness there at all. Okay.
And you can just release. Brilliant.
Lovely. So thank you, Matt. This is one of the things we're going to be talking about next week at the Wellbeing and Resilience Day. But before I talk about that, so Mark, I just want to say a big thank you to you, Mark, for joining us this week. And I know I'll be seeing you again really, really, really soon. But thanks for your time today.
You're more than welcome.
And yeah, this is bringing us to the end of the show this week. And next week we're not transmitting on Saturday because we have the Wellbeing Resilience Day on Sunday 11 till 5, I think it is, next week. So we're going to be broadcasting live from that event, and it's a real life event. It's at the Nia Centre on Warwick Street in Hume, and also at Hume Garden Centre as well. And we've got a good lineup of different practices, different backgrounds, including yoga and nutrition. We've got talks on also stress management, anxiety management. I'm going to be talking about internal family systems and the drama triangle, which is a very, very interesting model, and it's all about victim consciousness. We've also got Craig Winterburn joining us with his sound healing gong healing session. And we have Alisa joining us from Manchester Counselling College to share information about anybody who could be interested in starting a career as a counsellor. We've got Nicola Charnock talking about nutrition, and Dr. John Petro is going to be talking about nutritional myths as well. So it's a great lineup. It's going to be a lovely, lovely day. Check out the NiaMoss Facebook page and the NiaMoss website as well, and look out for details on my Facebook page as well. And get in touch if you want to get involved. Maybe you're a practitioner that wants to come and share some things that you're doing that you might want to share into the community. And also for anybody who's looking for different ways of exploring self-help, then please do come on down to the event on Sunday. So it's been a great show this week. And we're having a little tiny break after that, and we'll be keeping you posted on the next time we are meeting here. So big massive thank you to everybody, and hope to see you all next Sunday. Bye.